Iraq-Afghanistan wars where they just stopped. They didn't want to show veterans in coffins. So they didn't want to show like the actual bloodbath that was going on. So they stopped covering it. You know, after a while, they were like, this is just the reality now. It's going to happen. This cruelty is going to happen. We're just not going to talk about it. Puerto Rico is another example. Oftentimes, it's just when brown people are victims, the media just moves away. They talk about it. They talk about it for a little bit. They make it seem like it's the worst thing that's ever happened, and usually it is. And then they move away from it. So,
Pog Daddy Hasanabi.
This week, the House will begin consideration of two bills aimed at amending the immigration system. The first is the American Dream and Promise Act that would establish a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants brought to the country as children, otherwise known as Dreamers. It would also include a pathway to citizenship for people granted temporary protected status, along with those who were recipients of the deferred enforcement departure as of January 20th, 2021. There is also a Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which would create a system in which a worker in the agricultural industry could earn temporary status and eventual option to become a permanent resident. Neither of these bills are going to pass. I'm telling you right now, they're deeply popular bills. They want Americans want this. There is like, depending on what part of the bill we're talking about, there is either 75 on the minimum to 90% support for this, 90% being for the DACA immigrants and the pathway to citizenship for DACA immigrants, 75% for amnesty overall, or conditional amnesty overall for Americans. But it's also the bread and butter of the Republicans. And also, they believe that this is a way to create more Democratic voters, so they're going to oppose this as best as they can. And also, it goes along with their, white nativist, white supremacist policy positions. So, 0% shot that this gets pushed through the Senate. It's just not going to happen. Both bills have strong support from Democrats and passed the lower chamber in 2019. It's unclear how they would fare in the Senate because they would need Republican support. The bills represent a more targeted approach at passing immigration legislation than Biden's comprehensive immigration proposal, the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, which would face significant opposition by Republicans in the Senate. If you ask me, what they should do, what Democrats should do, is precisely what they have done, or precisely what Republicans do, which is go off balls to the wall with an aggressive policy agenda. Say we're going to do full unconditional amnesty and then work your way down, but they're not going to do that. And they're going to cuck themselves already. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I am legitimately fearful that the Democrats are going to completely give up on. I'm legitimately fearful that Democrats are going to completely give up on covering immigrants. We'll see. Anyway, here's the STEMI conversation. Back to the STEMI conversation because the Biden administration is doing their STEMI bill tour.
Math for a family of 5, like the Purdue's of Springfield, Missouri, $7,000 delivered by direct deposit.
A huge relief for us, and it definitely helps financially.
The Biden administration now facing criticism over a very different emergency, with help deployed along the southern border. FEMA sent to organize suitable shelter after a surge of migrants at the border. 3,200 children crossing alone last week. Republicans charge this is a crisis brought on by a more migrant-friendly immigration policy under President Biden.
People think they can get in. They begin sending their unaccompanied child on a train ride across Mexico. This policy is leading to this surge. That is unmistakable.
The White House acknowledged.
First of all, completely incorrect. Secondly, it doesn't even fucking matter. Let's say if it is correct. Let's say that people are so goddamn scared. It's a backlog. That's the reason why it seems like a surge is occurring, because no migrants were being allowed into the country, right? But let's say that they are literally sending their children here. Okay, what's the alternative? Killing them? Like, what are you, fucking crazy? Take care of the goddamn kids, you dumbass. What the fuck is your problem? Like, We're the wealthiest nation on earth. Like this is something that I will never understand. It's something that it just does not fit my brain, okay? It does not fit inside of my fucking brain. This notion that like, oh, well, people are literally sending their children here because it's a better future for them here, despite the kind of senseless cruelty that we subject them to in a way to deter others from coming into the country. Despite all that, they still believe that there's a better shot for them here. Okay? But we just got to deal with it. We got to fucking lock them up and, like, you know, harm them and shit.
There are now too many children at Border Patrol stations.
We inherited a real lack of capacity. It's hard to ramp up that capacity. You can't just take children and put them in a hotel room. They need to be in a place where they are safely protected. They need to be in a place with staff.
Hotels are notoriously not staffed.
House Republican Kevin McCarthy.
Which is why we need to put them in prison. We literally have to put these kids in prison because we can't put them in a hotel. Because, you know, think about it. They're going to see stuff on the television. They're going to order too much room service. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that kids could do.
He is leading a group of GOP lawmakers to the border today. They say the White House is downplaying the situation there, noting that the administration calls the surge of migrants a challenge.
Guys, there isn't like literally a fuckload of hotels that are empty that would benefit tremendously from restructuring and being repurposed into facilities that house like migrants that come into the country, or even homeless shelters, by the way, on top of that, with actual staff members getting appropriate training that they could use in the future to deal with migrant children, things like that. That would all be genuinely terrible. Like, that would be the worst thing you could do. Okay? Home Alone 2 was a cautionary tale about migrant children.
But stop short.
Yeah, they're gonna see titties on HBO. First of all, yeah, what if the kids purchase HBO packages? Okay, and what if the HBO package also shows booba? In which case, the child is over. I mean, he's traumatized. They saw booba, and it's done, right? So we can't do that.
Short of describing it as a crisis.
I'm just saying, boys, what is not traumatizing for these children is putting them in fucking prisons, okay? And also, they're not prisons, but they're overflow facilities. And also, that's not traumatizing for them, but the hotels would be too much.
This morning, Andrew Cuomo stands alone, increasingly a political pariah in New York and the nation. In his first comments on the scandal, President Joe Biden urging patience.
I think the investigation is underway and we should see what it brings us.
But many aren't willing to wait. This morning, almost all of the state's Democratic Congress.
Yeah, this dude is done, okay? Cuomo is super done. I don't think he'll leave. The coverage on this has been really funny overall. I saw someone talk about Andrew Cuomo as like a 63-year-old man who doesn't even have a home outside of the governor's mansion. Like, as though firing Cuomo or forcing him to resign is going to leave a 63-year-old man homeless and jobless in the middle of a pandemic. Like, it's insanely delusional. Do you understand? Like, it is just straight up delusional. Which is why I have said that Andrew Cuomo is the Donald Trump of MSNBC liberals.
My dad's death with my therapist. Thank you for making me laugh again. Booba.
He is literally the Donald Trump of your boomer parents that watch MSNBC. Now, of course, that is the lucky ones. Some of you are lucky enough to have MSNBC watchers for parents. Some of you are not so lucky and have psychotic, reactionary QAnon parents, and I feel bad for you. But you know, what I got to say to Andrew Cuomo is, listen, if you lose your job and therefore the governor's mansion, just get an essential working job. That was Andrew Cuomo's personal reaction to a lot of people. So that's That's what I have to say to him. I hope he loses his job. I hope he loses his home, and then he can just get a fucking, essential worker job. He's not going to do that, of course, and he also has a fuckload of money, so he's not going to actually have any issues there. And I don't even think he's going to resign.
Congresspeople are calling on Cuomo to go, along with its 2 U.S. senators, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand.
Governor Cuomo has lost the confidence of his governing partners, as well as the people of New York.
But Cuomo says he's not going anywhere.
People know the difference between playing politics, bowing to cancel culture, and the truth. Let the review proceed. I'm not going to resign.
Ratcheting up the pressure on the 63-year-old governor,
Trump.
2 more younger
That's literally Trump. Bro, XQC understands the difference between cancel culture and like sexual misconduct in the workplace, especially. Like XQC, a Twitch streamer and a juicer, understands the difference between, like, understands the misappropriation of fucking cancel culture in matters that are otherwise legal. You think 63-year-old Andrew Cuomo doesn't understand it? Of course he does. He's doing the Trump defense. He's doing the reactionary conservative defense, which is, this is cancel culture. Incredible stuff.
women who last week said he had been inappropriate with them, bringing the total to 7.
It's very simple. I never harassed anyone. I never abused anyone. I never assaulted anyone.
The governorship is everything that Andrew Cuomo, according to the New York Times National Political Reporter. The 63-year-old lives at the executive mansion. He owns no other property, has no other apartment anyone's aware of. Important context is he refuses to resign or give up the fourth-term dream. Have some fucking mercy on the old man. He will be houseless, homeless. Anyway, before we get back to the Cuomo thing, it is top of the hour every hour. And if you haven't already used your primes or your subscriptions for the month on Ludwig's sleeping stream, like a motherfucking amaranth, you can use them here in order to have a ad-free broadcasting experience. You can do it for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime because it's ad time, boys. Top of the hour every hour, 6-second ad break. If you no longer want to see the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, you can subscribe for free. Use it here. Thank you, the great Pudini, for the 531 gift subs. Raging Jedman for the primes. Thank you. Here's the ad.
The seventh accuser, journalist Jessica Bakeman. In a new first-person account in New York Magazine, Bakeman describes how the governor physically touched her while she covered him in 2014. Writing, he uses touching and sexual innuendo to stoke fear in us. That is the textbook definition of sexual harassment.
Yes, many people don't know this, but Cuomo used to live literally inside of a dumpster before he moved into the governor's mansion. So you joke, but he will have to go back to living inside of a dumpster now that the governor mansion might get taken from him.
Asked about Bakeman's allegations, the governor's office referred us to his earlier denials.
Okay, I'm lying. He doesn't live in a dumpster. He lives inside of a pipe, okay? Yes, it's the truth. He lives inside of a pipe, and he jumps on top of mushrooms, and that's the only thing he can eat. And you guys are literally taking away his castle, the only way that he could survive. Yeah.
And this morning reports that Cuomo...
How do they know they're not lying? A pattern of misconduct, actual fucking physical evidence of him like inappropriately touching a woman at a one of the people that came out and spoke out against them. It's like there's so much. There might be some people that pile onto it. Like, I don't know. There might be some people that fucking pile onto it, right? And there sometimes are. But ultimately, the pattern of misconduct is pretty fucking clear.
Cuomo's vaccine czar has been calling county executives.
Also, like, believe the victims. I mean, guys, believe women or believe victims does not mean automatically across the board zero fucking skepticism or like, you know, zero critical thinking. Believe everything that a woman says always, okay? It's never been that. It just means don't reflexively disbelieve women. All right? It's literally, it's trust but verify, okay? Yeah, as someone pointed out in the chat. Like, holy fucking shit, guys. I don't know how we are this far in from, like, we're living in a post-Me Too era, and motherfuckers still do this. Like, you still jump to that, like, you still jump on this this train where you want to eliminate the process, it almost feels like. Don't pull a Defron. The other annoying part of this process is that immediately, like, when you say believe women, it means believe victims. Do not believing victims means do not reflexively disbelieve them. When I say that, people literally are like, oh, you're just fucking saying all women are liars and you think rape never occurs, you piece of shit. Like, chill the fuck out. Why adopt the right-wing reactionary framing on a particular matter willingly? Okay? Let Republicans say that you behave that way, and then you can fucking turn around and be like, I don't behave that way. That's bullshit. Stop trying to be fucking edgy from the left, okay?
Real Pogu Italian hands.
Believe women is meant to push back on the fact that it's so hard for women to believe after 6, 7. Come forward. Dudes are still going. Are they lying, though? Exactly. Exactly. Which is why I said I believe them. Which is why I said there's a pattern of misconduct here.
Joe.
To gauge their loyalty to the governor. The New York Times and Washington Post reporting one executive was so upset by the call, the person filed an ethics complaint with the state attorney general's office. Now, Cuomo's vaccine czar, Larry Schwartz, tells the Washington Post that he didn't do anything wrong. In the meantime, this week, we should get a better idea of just what the timeline will be.
Bro, this guy, his vaccine czar is literally his homie, okay? That's the funniest part about this. Like, this is so Trumpian, which is just like regular politics for the most part. But so he has a vaccine czar, right? Who's like literally in charge of the distribution. His vaccine czar, according to the Washington Post, called county officials to gauge their loyalty to Cuomo amid the sexual harassment investigation. So Cuomo's already being investigated, right? Because of misconduct, potential misconduct, where he knew and wanted to shield the public from finding out about the true cost, like the true casualties under COVID, like underreporting nursing home deaths and things like that, knowing full well that he was underreporting it. So there's already an ongoing investigation. Then the sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, which is a range of inappropriate behavior from like literally sexual harassment, like regular sexual harassment, borderline sexual harassment, all the way to assault. And and his fucking homie, Larry Schwartz, turns around and starts calling up different counties, and he's like, Can we, you know, you don't want to talk against the Don, right? Hey, you know, I'm gonna call it a favor at some point, all right? How you doing? Fuck you. Which is wild. One Democratic county executive was so unsettled that the executive on Friday filed a notice of an impending ethics complaint with the public integrity unit of the state attorney general's office. The executive feared the county's vaccine supply could suffer if Schwartz was not pleased with the executive's response to his questions about support for the governor. Hey, you want your fucking old people not to die? We better.
Oh yeah. Believe
we better count on your support
who cheated on me for
at the next meeting
with Randy from accounting. Should I believe her too, Arjan Pecker? Damn it, I'm so lonely, brother. Sad chud.
Okay. Yo, dude. Also, Cuomo's anti-Semitism blaming the rise of COVID on Orthodox and Hasidic communities. Okay, first of all, like, Cuomo is a lot of shit, okay? But blaming the Orthodox or Hasidic communities for actual fucking clusters of COVID is literally not anti-Semitic. Are you kidding me? They're all fucking reactionary Trump supporters for the most part who were very avid anti-maskers. Let's be fucking real. Like, you're out of your fucking mind if you think that that was anti-Semitism. Come the fuck on. Like, holy shit. Go ask the New York Jews if that was anti-Semitic. That aren't like reactionary conservatives. These motherfuckers were like throwing they were throwing like public fucking funerals and weddings and shit like COVID wasn't real. They almost murdered a whistleblower in their community, a journalist. There was that entire controversy. There was that entire fucking controversy revolving around an Orthodox, like a member of the Orthodox community that was covering the anti-maskers in his own community, and they literally they just surrounded his fucking apartment. Then we're like trying to bait him out. Like, come on, bro. Come on. It seems like a hit job on Cuomo. Why did these ladies come out now? In today's world, this is easily accepted and encouraged, but these ladies come out one after another in organized fashion. People who call for Cuomo to leave the office are convicting before the process plays out. What? It's not a hit job, okay? The way it happens is people fucking hold on to this for a very long time, okay? People hold on to this for a very long time. And when they see a situation where like where Cuomo is under attack for a different reason, finally there's a chip in the armor, then people decide like this is a good fucking time to also press on this matter. I am going to have courage now that I know Andrew Cuomo does not have so much fucking power, to come out and say my fucking piece. Other people coming out afterwards isn't a lie, even though there might be some people who are like, oh yeah, well, he did look at me weirdly and whatever, but in most circumstances, people don't do that. Okay. But other women come out because they have a similar experience and they want to demonstrate solidarity with others who have also been victim to these antics. Okay. The reality is, statistically, it is less likely that the women coming out are fucking liars than they are, okay? It's just less likely that they are liars than not. There are significantly more people who never come out than people who come out and are lying. So to assume that people that are coming out about this, that less likely that women lie? No, it's not less likely that women lie. Why the fuck would I say that? That's such an idiotic take that your dumb fucking brain couldn't comprehend, and you literally turned around and you were like, less likely that women lie? No, I never fucking said that, idiot. I said women are less likely to come forward about sexual assault, like significantly less likely to come forward about sexual assault than come forward about sexual assault in a capacity that's a lie. Just lying about sexual assault. Anyway. Okay. I think your defense is a red herring. Most Cuomo sympathizers say that the accusations themselves don't even matter. Why would my defense be a red herring? What am I defending? I think you're a little confused. Cuomo thinks police should be able to search a car because they smell weed even after it's legal in New York. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Okay. So Cuomo, I've been shitting on Cuomo before it was fashionable to do so, as you guys already know. So I welcome everyone else to, join me at the table and shit on Andrew Cuomo, who deserves a lot of fucking criticism. He's always been a piece of shit for a very long time and always been super reactionary. So, okay.
The government of Italy.
Let's see what Dr. Fauci has to say about COVID.
Lockdown tomorrow as new variants cause cases to surge there. In some cases, the vaccines are less effective in combating the variants. How worried are you about that happening here?
Well, it definitely is of concern, Jake, which is the reason why I and
like the media, I can't get over the Cuomo shit. The media gave this motherfucker an Emmy, right? Like they were celebrating him. Didn't you change your position on Cuomo? No. I have a meme hat that says Cuomo Fauci. Is that why you think that like I've ever been a fan of Andrew Cuomo? When dudes were coming in here talking about how much they love Cuomo, I used to spend 25 to 30 minutes explaining to them that the reason why New York is in a state that it's in currently is because of Andrew Cuomo's reactionary austerity measures that he implemented that literally cut funding to hospitals that were already in a state of disrepair because of the limitations on Medicare funding within his own goddamn state. Andrew Cuomo has always been a gatekeeper that made sure that New York machine politics was super conservative. He has literally created coalitions within the state legislature to ensure that progressive Democrats do not have a voice in New York politics. He would rather work with Republicans time and time again, and has time and time again, than work with the progressives within his own state. Maybe you think that because I say Chris Cuomo is a himbo, and therefore I love him. But everyone fucking hates Cuomo. Even Bill de Blasio hates Cuomo a lot, actually.
and so
yes,
many.
We're going to do John Oliver soon. Please shut the fuck up about John Oliver. Holy fucking shit, dude. Shut up.
Public health colleagues say that although we are going in the right direction and things look really quite bright in the sense of positive thinking concerning the vaccines, which every day we get better and better with it. We've had, as you mentioned, 3 million doses going into people's arms just yesterday, that we're going in the right direction. But if you look at the numbers, Jake, even though the numbers have gone down, over the last couple of weeks, they've plateaued. And when you see a plateau at a level as high as 60,000 cases a day, that is a very vulnerable time to have a surge to go back up. And that's what exactly happened in Europe. They had a diminution of cases, they plateaued, and they pulled back on public health measures. You see the pictures in the paper and on TV. They've opened the restaurants, they've opened some of the bars. The younger people particularly stopped wearing masks, and then all of a sudden you have a surge that went right back up. And that's where we are right now. We can avoid that, Jake. We can avoid that if we continue to vaccinate people, get more and more protection without all of a sudden pulling back on public health measures. We will do that. We will gradually be able to pull them back. And if things go as we planned, just as the president said, by the time we get into the early summer, the 4th of July weekend, we really will have a considerable degree of normality. But we don't want to let that escape from our grasp by being too precipitous in pulling back.
So we've been living with this virus now for a year. There's still so much we do not know about the coronavirus. What is the biggest outstanding question for you about this virus?
Well, I mean, there's so many things, but the one that's obviously the looming one is the issue of what impact these variants are going to have. You know, we know that when you get a very high degree of antibodies resulting from the vaccination, that even though it isn't specifically directed against the variant, that high level of antibody can protect to a certain degree and certainly protect against severe illness, hospitalization, and death. So the best way that we can avoid any threat from variants is do two things: get as many people vaccinated as quickly as we possibly can, and to continue with the public health measures until we get this broad umbrella of protection over society that the level of infection is very low. You know, there's a tenet in virology that's so true, Jake, and that is viruses don't mutate unless they replicate. And replication means it's spreading around in the community. If you can blunt that, you'll be blunting the evolution of mutants for sure.
So President Biden has promised to have enough vaccine supply produced for every adult in America by the end of May. Of course, there's a big difference between having enough supply and getting those shots into arms. When do you think it's going to happen that everybody who wants a shot has gotten a shot?
Well, I hope that's just going to be a couple of months after that. I mean, hopefully by the time that we get into the summer and towards the end of the summer, logistically, let me tell you what's going on, why I feel optimistic about that. What the president has announced and will happening is the opening up of community vaccine centers, up to 500 of them, and over 900 of the community health centers from HRSA to get people vaccinated in those centers. Number two, to give the pharmacies a lot more leeway in being able to administer vaccines, particularly in areas of the country that are poorly serving, in the sense where minorities are demographically represented to a high degree. Getting mobile units out to get to poorly accessible areas and get a lot more people who can do vaccination. That means the military, that means retired physicians, nurses, and healthcare providers. So you're absolutely right. There are two issues. Getting enough doses, which we will have with the new contracts with the pharmaceutical companies. But once you get those doses, to get it into people's arms. And that's the reason why when the president said by the 4th of July, we'll believe strongly that if we do all these things, we'll reach a certain degree of normality by then, and then well into the summer, we'll get even better and better towards normal.
So let me ask you about that, because Biden said there's a good chance Americans will be able to gather in backyards and neighborhoods for cookouts on the 4th. The CDC already has guidelines for gathering outside with masks and distancing. So can you explain the difference? Does that mean people will be able to return to a sense of normalcy without masks, without distancing on the 4th of July?
Well, yes. First of all, to be a greater degree of confidence. When you have a situation where you have 70,000 infections per day, I mean, that is a feeling that you don't feel very secure about mingling, about having people around, feeling comfortable about it. If by the time we get to the 4th of July, with the rollout of the vaccines, we get the level of infection so low, I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly what the specific guidelines of the CDC are, but I can tell you for sure they will be much more liberal than they are right now about what you can do.
The CDC finally released some guidelines for people who have been fully vaccinated. But those people are still not allowed to have medium-sized gatherings. They're still not allowed to travel, according to the CDC. Why? What do you as a health expert need to see to say it's okay for vaccinated individuals to travel or to be in a crowd? I mean, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
Well, Jake, let me tell you how it goes with regard to the CDC. The CDC is a science-based organization, so they really...
I mean, it's a good question. You're supposed to do that. I know it sounds silly, but of course, Jake Tapper is asking an actually solid question there. People are still confused as to what happens with regards to transmission even after you get the vaccine. So you can still transmit, which is part of the reason why people are fearful, and part of the reason why the CDC and other organizations have said we are not going fully back to normal, but you know, you'll be able to get a little bit more freedom in your movement. I don't know if that's going to continue. I don't know if... I mean, we'll see what happens. We're just going to have to sit and wait. Vaccinate as many people as possible, and fucking sit and wait. See if new strains come in and eviscerate. You're not supposed to be able to transmit after you're immune? No, dude. No, you're wrong. You can literally get it again. There are different strains of the virus. You can still transmit it even if you don't actually get it. Like, there's so many questions here that have not been answered yet because this process was super fast and really good for the most part because it was a necessity. But like the issue is we don't know. There is not a 100% certainty that you won't get it and then spread it. There isn't even a certainty that you won't get it. What there is a certainty, as far as we know, with vaccines is literally just the fact that it kills off a lot of the more devastating problems, the devastating complications if you do end up getting it. Okay? That's what it is. We know that. And even that is like not going to be 100% certain, obviously. Their science is never 100% certain, especially pharmaceutical science like this. But when the impact is lessened as a consequence of the vaccine, that might also decrease, or the speculation is that it decreases the chances of transmission too. Okay?
Would like to get the data that would allow them to go to the next step. If they don't have the data, they'll do modeling. If they don't have the modeling, they will use, as you say, common sense expert opinion. So what we've seen was the first installment of what you can do if you're vaccinated.
My dad is an immunologist, and you're not 100% accurate, my man. Why? Because I said that nothing is 100% accurate when it comes to vaccines. Is that why? So you're telling me your immunologist dad is going to turn around and tell me that I'm actually wrong for saying there is no 100% certainty in this regard, even when it comes to like eliminating some of the worse off symptoms of COVID with the vaccine? Really? Really interesting. My dad works at Nintendo, actually. My dad is literally COVID. I don't know if you knew this or not, but yeah, my dad is Mr. COVID, so you're wrong.
What you can do in the home setting.
I own your fucking bitch-ass immunologist dad.
Or vaccinated people with an unvaccinated person. You're going to see very soon similar types of guidelines.
He's
to the
Mr.
American
John
public
COVID.
With regard to travel, the workplace, all kinds of different things that you're asking right now. You will imminently be seeing those types of guidelines coming out. They just want to make sure that they get it right. Now, some people think that's a little bit too slow, but they're going to get there, and they'll get there soon.
So in terms of CDC guidance, as you know, the guidance for social distancing, for how far people should be, there's a discrepancy. Some places, some health organizations say 3 feet or a meter is enough. But here in the United States, we say 6 feet. There's this new study from researchers in Massachusetts, just out this week. It found no significant difference in coronavirus spreading in schools where there was 6 feet of distancing versus 3 feet of distancing. But that 6-foot requirement, that's one of the main hurdles to reopening schools.
Right.
Does this study suggest to you that 3 feet is good enough?
It does indeed, and that's exactly the point I'm making.
I'm sorry, this conversation is so fucking stupid. Like, I don't know. I find this to be like really stupid. But I guess it's a big deal for schools because our schools do not have 6 feet distance, and it's and while this is seemingly a dumb conversation, it's a significant one because that's what the unions work off of. And if the unions are operating off of like 6 feet distance, unless or else we fucking don't go back to school, or we don't send teachers back to school, then that's going to be a big hurdle. And that's precisely why they're saying like, well, what about 3 feet distance? Maybe they can make 3 feet distance work in certain areas where teachers unions have appropriate measures. That's the real reason why they're talking about the 6 feet versus 3 feet distance.
Chuck, what the CDC wants to do is they want to accumulate data, and when the data shows that there is an ability to be 3 feet, they will act accordingly. They have clearly noted those data. They are, in fact, doing studies themselves. And when the data are just analyzed, and it's going to be soon. I mean, Jake, you're asking the right questions. And the CDC is very well aware that data are accumulating, making it look more like 3 feet are okay under certain circumstances. They're analyzing that, and I can assure you within a reasonable period of time, quite reasonable, they will be giving guidelines according to the data that they have.
So any mayors
it won't be very long, I promise you.
Any mayors or governors or school district heads listening right now, if they hear you right now and they say, well, it sounds like Dr. Fauci thinks 3 feet is good enough, that will enable us to open our school. That's right?
Well, Jake, I don't want to get ahead of official guidelines. I can tell you and promise you, I talk to the CDC, to Dr. Walensky every single day. She is acutely aware of the accumulation of data and the fact that her team will be acting on the data the way they always do. Just stay tuned. It's going to come, and it's going to come soon.
Well, we are staying tuned for a lot of us who want schools to open safely, of course.
Right.
Dr.
Studies show that wealthier parents on average are more adamant about getting schools to reopen than poorer ones, by the way, in poorer districts. So if people are trying to make this out to be like a working class problem, there is a working class component to it, certainly. But the real people the real people that are fucking upset about schools not being open are wealthier people on average. Wait, schools aren't open in America right now? No, schools are open. They're just doing, depends on where in America we're talking about. But they have distance learning, or they're learning at home still in a lot of places. Okay, there it is, boys. John Oliver, Tucker Carlson. I hope you're excited. I'm doing it now.
Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns, I'm sorry to say, Tucker Carlson, a man who gives Tuckers an even worse name than they already have. This week, as he now seems to every week, Tucker set off a bit of a firestorm.
So we've got new hairstyles and maternity flight suits. Pregnant women are going to fight our wars. It's a mockery of the U.S. military. While China's military becomes more masculine as it's assembled the world's largest...
China's military is becoming more masculine. Our military's it's got too many women in it. Chinese military, too masculine for us. So fucking dumb, dude. What a dumb fucking argument. Like, what an idiotic fucking argument, dude. Like, as if when we have fucking female drone pilots, all of a sudden, like, they're not dropping actual fucking bombs. They're dropping flowers on children in Yemen or some shit, or like in the kids in Syria. Okay, the thing that blows my fucking mind is that this is literally the same guy who shits, or whose followers shit on American imperialism, right? Supposedly, because he's supposed to be an isolationist, like he's supposed to be based and red pilled, right? So they are the same guys who share the meme of like, LGBT sticker slapped drone bombs. But then he turns around and he's like, our military is becoming too much of a pussy because we got too many chicks in here.
Navy. Our military needs to become, as Joe Biden says, more feminine. Whatever feminine means anymore, since men and women no longer exist.
What are you talking about, you performatively outraged wedge salad? Now, he's packed a lot in there, from transphobia to weirdly extolling the masculinity of China's Navy to his completely misplaced outrage at Joe Biden over those flight suits, which were part of an initiative that started when Trump was president and also included ensuring that body armor actually fits women service members, which is obviously a good idea. Those comments sparked an all-too-familiar cycle of condemnation, defensiveness, and hype. And it seems like every week now, Tucker has another one of these mini-controversies. Last week, it was the Dr. Seuss bullshit. And look, I would like nothing more than to not play into his wildly offensive shtick. You might even be thinking right now, why give him the attention that he's so clearly trolling for? But the fact is, we're not giving Tucker any attention he's not already getting a lot of. The night he made those flight suit remarks, he was the most watched show on cable. He averages over 3 million views a night and does well in the key 25 to 54 demo, meaning that young people are watching him, as well as the normal Fox audience of retirees and their sad imprisoned pets. He is so important to the network that they are expanding Tucker's presence, launching a new video podcast and long-form documentary series. And if that wasn't enough, Tucker's also been floated as a potential future presidential candidate, which should be seriously alarming because of all the things that Tucker is, a conspiracy theorist, a misogynist, Islamophobe, a troll, one of the most dangerous, is that he is the most prominent vessel in America for white supremacist talking points. And I already know what Tucker will say about this, because whenever this topic comes up, he has the exact same reaction. What does that even mean?
White nationalism. Let's be literal for a minute. What is that exactly?
I don't even know what white nationalism means, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole with you now.
What is it? What is it really? I mean, Nazism. Nationalism, not so bad. Socialism, sometimes I could be on board with that. What is National Socialism? What is it really? If I ask a question like this, liberals will get outraged. They'll say, "You are a Nazi." Well, I'm sorry to say that I will not bow down to the liberal, woke, social justice mob. I will say that National Socialism, two different components I'm on board with, can be rather good.
Isn't anyone ever...
See, you can fucking talk about anything like Tucker Carlson and make 0 points whatsoever, okay? Like, it's just, it doesn't matter. He's just like, what does that mean, really?
Ever define white supremacy? What is white supremacy? Can somebody tell us in very clear language what a white supremacist is?
Okay. First, very clear language seems like a high bar to clear for a man who spends 85% of his time making the befuddled face of a 13th century farmer learning about Bitcoin. And I promise that we're actually going to give Tucker a pretty clear definition of white supremacy later in this piece. And he does seem to need one, because whenever he tries to define it himself, it tends to be self-servingly narrow.
This show was not on the air for 6 months before there was an organized and highly aggressive campaign by prominent Democrats to denounce us as white supremacists. The first time it happened, the people who work on this show...
It was so shocking that there was an organized and concerted effort to call Tucker Carlson a white supremacist, which he literally is. A WASP supremacist, which he literally is, after he has covered it so frequently, the white supremacist talking points so frequently, and channeled white supremacist talking points so frequently. I'm so shocked. One of his head writers was literally fired for being a literal, straight-up white supremacist on an anonymous forum that he thought he was anonymous in. That guy also wrote a lot of Tucker Carlson's monologues. But hey, I don't know. I mean, these are just a lot of coincidences, right? These are just coincidences.
Many of them kids were shocked and horrified by that.
I'm shocked to find out that a guy who said immigrants are unwashed and dirty and parasitic, literally channeling Hitler-level Nazi rhetoric on those who is declared to be the underclass, is getting offended by people calling him a white supremacist.
Supremacists?
He also did say Iraqis are illiterate monkeys, for example, and that deserve to be bombed into oblivion.
What's worse than that? The phrase evokes images of burning crosses and lynchings. It's awful.
Okay, first, I'm so sorry.
His dick is so hard when he thinks about that, too. Burning crosses, I do declare. I mean, this is devastating. Nobody likes burning crosses. But what is a cross, really? If not just a T? A cross is just basically a T. Lighting a T on fire is not declared unacceptable. All of a sudden, radical liberals and their social justice mob has decided that we can't burn these crosses. They want to burn flags, but you can't burn a cross. I thought they would be on board with burning crosses, since they have a radical anti-Christian agenda.
Tucker, I honestly didn't realize that your show was staffed entirely by children. I certainly never intended for them to get caught up in all of this, so my sincere apologies, you tiny little rascals. But I don't burn crosses or lynch people, so I can't be a white supremacist is a pretty weak argument. It's like saying I can't be an anti-Semite because I didn't do the Holocaust, or I can't be a sexual predator because I didn't produce goodwill.
Okay, this is literally, Tucker Carlson is watching and taking notes right now like, actually, that's pretty good. Tomorrow I'm going to say that. He's literally like, well, I didn't actually do the Holocaust, so therefore I can't be a Nazi or an anti-Semite, really.
Will hunting. There is more than one way to be a terrible person. And Tucker, conveniently for him, doesn't fit neatly into a lot of people's perception of white supremacists, especially if they share his definition that it must require burning crosses, clan hoods, and a name tag that says, hello, my name is a racist. You might even have friends who think Tucker can't be racist. I've never heard him say the N-word, as if that is the fucking bar. But for the record, white supremacists themselves seem to be big fans of what Tucker's been doing. Just listen to Derek Black, a former white supremacist whose father started Stormfront, the largest, oldest white supremacist site on the internet, talk about just how much his family likes Tucker's show.
My family watches Tucker Carlson's show once and then watches it on the replay because they feel that he is making the white nationalist talking points better than they have, and they're trying to get some tips on how to advance it.
Yeah, they watch it once to enjoy.
Derek Black is pretty good. He's a former white supremacist who literally has talked about how to infiltrate Republican circles. Like, he used to give seminars to Nazis back in the day about he's literally fucking former Nazi, man. Come on, holy shit. Like, this is a dude who now spends most of his time trying to subvert and stop Nazis. Like, Jesus Christ. Shut the fuck up, chat. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, like, you're literally like, oh god. You do this thing where you unironically operate in a similar capacity to what the Republicans make you out to be. He a leftist though, or some kind of it doesn't matter. He's a fucking liberal, but like, it doesn't matter if he's a liberal or not. He's anti-Nazi, and that's what we're talking about here. Affirmative justice is good, but actually Nazis can't reform you. Exactly. It's just the most painfully American point of view, guys. That's what it is, okay? It sucks because Americans are so draconian, and they literally cannot see a world in which people reform and change their behavior. They want murder. They want blood. They want fucking gladiator arenas. And even then, it's like, you can only reform yourself in the eyes of the public by an act of like physical might or something, by like overcoming odds, and clawing yourself back into success, no matter how brutal you are in the process. Only then will you be considered appropriate or acceptable in the eyes of the American public. They love an underdog story. But until you get back into the public's eye like that, you're never going to be seen as someone who is reformed. And even then, people are probably going to say like, fuck you, you're still a Nazi or whatever. Yeah, he was raised from birth to be a Nazi and unlearned it on its own. Exactly. But as I was saying, he's very good. He talks about this shit all the time. He used to literally give seminars to Republicans or to other white nationalists on like how to oh, thank you, Fizz. Good shit, Fizz. How to subvert Republicans because of how closely aligned their worldview is with respect to Nazis, like American Nazis. So he would give Nazis like in white supremacist seminars on how to fucking run for like local office as Nazis, but on a Republican ticket.
Enjoy it, and a second time to learn from it. They watch Tucker the same way I watch the Drew Barrymore show. First time for fun, second to figure out how she can possibly successfully pull off a segment in which a child makes a Shirley Temple while Stanley Tucci quietly drinks an entire glass of wine on a screen in the background. I don't know how you work your magic, Drew, but I want to learn. You're advancing this form. So given that Tucker has the admiration of white supremacists and the ear of millions of your relatives, co-workers and elected officials, we thought tonight it would be...
Yeah, he went to a tiny liberal arts hippie college, and I think the son of the rabbi there, like, literally fucking de-radicalized him by slowly but surely inviting him to Shabbat, I think, like Shabbat dinners. Like, it's like a happy, fun story. A lot of people are gonna get fucking mad at that, whatever, but yeah.
Worth talking about him. Where he came from, what his tactics are, and why what he represents is so dangerous. And let's start with some backstory. Tucker grew up in La Jolla, California, where his dad married an heiress to the Swanson TV dinner fortune, which is already interesting because if Tucker's got sad 70s single man frozen food money, that means he's been doing groundbreaking shows like Cuckolding is when a humiliated man watches his wife have an affair for the love of the game. Now, to hear Tucker tell it, he grew up in a simpler, better time. He once wistfully claimed, racial solidarity wasn't a working concept in my Southern California hometown. Most people barely had last names, much less ethnic identities, which is a pretty weird thing to say if your full name is Tucker Swanson McNear Carlson and your ethnic identity...
His brother's middle name is Buckley, dude. That's all you need to know. Like, Tucker Carlson's fucking entire... Like, he's the most fucking painfully white person on the planet. His brother's name is Buckley Swanson Peck Carlson, dude. There is nothing that screams WASP royalty more than that.
He can best be described as, my brother's name is Buckley Swanson Peck Carlson.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. Whoever the fuck is in here and has like ripped these, I'm going to demand some fucking... I'm going to literally demand royalties, okay? I'm demanding royalties. This is a fucking major meme. This has been a major meme in this community for such a long fucking time. Okay? For the people who are saying you pre-watched this, you must be new here. I've been making fun of Buckley Swanson Peck Carlson for a very, very long time.
The only way he could get any more ethnically white is if he jizzed mayonnaise. Now, as a child, Tucker was sent to boarding school where he promptly did two things: fail to impress any number of prestigious universities and start dating the headmaster's daughter, a headmaster who in return arranged to get him into Trinity College. He then became a print journalist, reportedly after his father told him that journalism will take anybody, which, to his dad's credit, did kind of turn out to be true. Tucker's leap to TV, though, came as an accident. Supposedly, back in the 90s, Dan Rather's show called the magazine where Tucker was working, looking for somebody to talk about the OJ trial. And the receptionist there told him, everyone else is still at lunch, can you do it? Which might be the single whitest origin story I have ever heard. Hey, you! Yeah, you with the skin and face. We've got an extra career lying around. Are you interested? But despite his total lack of preparation, Tucker was almost immediately hitting on themes that he'd be echoing for the next 25 years. Because here is one of his very first TV appearances in the aftermath of the OJ verdict.
Let me ask you, Mr. Carlson, do you think we're honest with each other race to race?
Oh, my friend is watching for the first time and got upset. You were making fun of fat Texans earlier. Well, your friend is going to get very upset because not just Texans I make fun of, okay? I make fun of a lot of shit. Especially in regards to Texas, actually. Texas conservatives across the board are very deserving of not only scrutiny, but shame. If you're a conservative in general, you deserve to be shamed. But if you are a Texan conservative, oof. I don't get it. Is there supposed to be something wrong with being white? No, brother, there's nothing wrong, okay?
No, of course not. I mean, you know, everybody is terrified of one thing. You know,
there's something wrong with this, though. Like, honestly, all of this is just so bad. I can't, like, he's such a fucking annoying, oh, God, he just looks so horrible.
Mr. Carlson, do you think we're honest with each other race to race?
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, you know, everybody is terrified of one thing. You know, whites are, of course, terrified of being called a racist. Blacks are terrified of being belittled, of course. I think we need actually probably less conversation about race. I think it might do us good were we to ignore the subject a little bit and treat each other as if there were no color boundary separating us. I think that might be helpful. I think we talk about it in some ways too much.
Okay, first, I'm pretty sure that black people are less terrified of being belittled than of being killed, jailed, economically exploited, or indeed denied access to healthcare after their heads literally explode from hearing someone in a bow tie and plaid blazer suggest being called racist is as bad as actually experiencing racism. Although, I do want to quickly come back to that specific bow tie, because...
Guys, this is perfect. Okay? What Tucker Carlson is saying is perfect. If you're a fucking child, or if you have a baby brain, and you lack object permanence, then of course, if you don't talk about racism, then it's not going to exist. The only time racism ever exists is when you talk about it, and the more you talk about it, the more racism wins. This is perfect for his audience. Here is a guy who completely understands the brain capability, the processing capacity of his own audience that he is talking to. That's it. So congratulations to Tucker Carlson for figuring it out.
Because look, I'm not knocking bow ties in general. They're perfectly fine for a child attending his first communion or a Hanna-Barbera animator who can't draw necks. But that bow tie is too small. Either commit